Why do I look so ugly in this lighting? Okay, I'm gonna try to talk softly because it's like kind of late right now. I've moved my camera to like face these blinds because otherwise I'm getting this weird light like over here and you can't see my face, which is obviously what all of you are here for. Since my exams have recently ended, I'm gonna try to put out videos a bit more frequently, so that's what this is. I reread Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, and this is a review. I don't know why it's so hard for me to like be normal while I'm talking softly. I'm a loud person, okay? This audio is gonna be crap, and I'm so sorry. Okay, anyway, let's get into it. I first read Percy Jackson when I was 12, so the perfect age to read Percy Jackson. I read all of the 5 books in 1 week, pretty much a book a day, and then I read up until whichever Heroes of Olympus book was out, which was Mark of Athena, I believe, which is like a great cliffhanger to end on. And usually like once every year I have like a short Percy Jackson phase in which I spend about a week or 2 rereading all of the books. I've been meaning to do this for like a couple of months now, but I didn't really want to start because once I start I would only be reading Percy Jackson books and not doing anything else, which is actually not what I've been doing, but I've only read 1 so far, so let's see how that goes. Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief is about this boy called Percy Jackson who is 12, and he goes to this school that he gets kicked out of because he gets in trouble a lot, and he finds out that he is a demigod and his father is Poseidon. That's not a spoiler, you find out in like the first chapter or 2. Well, not the first chapter or 2, but like it's early on, and yeah. I'm gonna do like a non-spoiler section and then a spoiler section, maybe. I think so. So let's get into it. I don't have any notes, everything is right here in my head. I reread Percy Jackson yesterday, or actually yesterday, so now I'm gonna talk about it. I like Percy like so much, and I really like the writing style of this book because it's all of the comedy is just like, it's still funny. Like I read it now as like a 21-year-old, and like I still found it funny. Not as funny as I originally found it as a child, but like it holds up, like a lot of it, which is quite interesting. Because you would think like with something being written for like middle grade, it might not be like as appealing to you when you get older, and maybe it isn't, but I did read it as a child, so there is like a nostalgia factor there. Also, the characters of Percy, Annabeth, and Grover I really like. I like that Percy and Grover are established first, so you get kind of like a bit more time with them, and by the time Annabeth like comes around, you kind of like, you definitely know what Percy is like, and you kind of do know like a lot about Grover as well, since he's in a lot of those initial chapters. So I really enjoyed that. I think they genuinely, like, they're really well written as like 12-year-olds. Like they are very much like actual 12-year-olds, but just like if you hand a 12-year-old a weapon, which is not advisable in any circumstances, except for these very specific ones in the books, I guess. But I still wouldn't say it's advisable, but like, what can you do? I didn't write this. Also, there would be like no story without it. I don't know what I'm talking about at this point. So the point is, they get to the camp, Camp Half-Blood, which is where demigods go, and then Percy gets a quest, and he goes on the quest to find the lightning bolt that he's been accused of stealing. I should have said this at the start. he gets accused of stealing a lightning bolt from Zeus, and then he has to go on a quest to like stop the gods from fighting each other because they keep doing that all of the time. This is the Greek mythology, but I feel like I should say these things. I should like plan this out, but I didn't. I just turned my phone on and I started talking, which is why my whole channel is kind of a mess. So Percy, Annabeth, and Grover like start out on this journey. They go to various places in America and like fight a bunch of monsters, and then they get to the place, they do the thing, end of the quest. I want to say I really, as someone who now has read a couple more like Greek things, like fiction, like stories, I do think it's like very obvious where Rick Riordan is getting his inspiration from. I forgot that word for a second. His inspiration from. So the fact that it's like the fact that they're like going to all these places and like get distracted doing like other things, like that's super like, yeah, like that's like how all of these stories go. So I really like that. I like the fact that you get to see a bunch of monsters that like you may know from Greek mythology. Like Medusa is like one of the monsters that they meet. So you know, like if you are a child and you do know like a little bit about Greek mythology, I don't know how much I know about Greek mythology. I only got into it because I started reading these books. But if you're a child and you know like a bit, like Medusa is like pretty well known, so like the fact that you could like recognize some of the monsters or like gods that show up, I really like that, and I think it like adds to the enjoyment of the book. I also enjoyed like all of the character interactions that Percy had with literally everyone, because this 12-year-old boy is fucking savage, and it is so much fun to just like watch him going around places calling people out. I'm like, I love you so much, you're so like, he's so like tiny and full of anger, and I'm like, I love you, like I love him. he's like, there's this one bit at the start where Mr. D, where he's like talking to Mr. D, who is like Dionysus. This is in the beginning, it's not a spoiler. And he's like, you're a god. And Mr. D is like, yes, child. And he's like, a god. You. And I'm like, this kid is so savage. Like, what the fuck? Like, I must have lost my mind when I read that as a 12-year-old. But yeah, he's so fun. And I really missed like reading about him. Because like most of the Percy Jackson content I get now is like fan fiction or like fan art, which is really nice, but it's not like, you know, 12-year-old Percy, because people write about like 17, 18-year-old Percy, or like even older than that. So like it's really nice to like get that kind of like interaction out of him. I really liked like the development of the relationship between Percy and Annabeth. I think like they kind of go from being like, what's it called? Like acquaintances, I guess, at the start, to being like actually like friends. And then when Annabeth finds out that Percy's godly parent is Poseidon, she's like, because hers is Athena, and like Athena and Poseidon don't get along, and she's like, well, since our parents don't get along, we can't get along. And I'm like, Annabeth, you are 12, so I forgive you. But that's like a really dumb thing to say, but it's fine because she's 12 and she's trying her hardest. I like Luke. I genuinely, like, every single time the first time I read this book, I loved Luke. I was like, I love him so much, and now I also love Luke, but like I know the thing that happens that I'll talk about at the end, or like I'll talk about it in the spoiler section, so I'm like, oh my god. Like every time I read the bits with Luke in them, because like I know where his character is like going, so it's like sad, which is something else that I think really adds to the quality of this book. Like the fact that I can keep coming back to it but still enjoy it even though I know how it ends. I think I really like that about this book. And yeah, I think that's it for the non-spoiler section. I'm gonna get into spoilers now. Back to Luke. I, like, every time I read this book, I'm like, the first time I read it, I was like absolutely shocked when it got to the part at the end when he, like, you know, betrays Percy, and I'm just like, oh my god, this is insane. I loved him, but like, you know, I didn't see that coming, which is, yeah. But going back and like knowing like what Luke is up to, basically, you can see how, like, it makes sense, you know. And it's like, it's just like, I feel like it's just sad to see his character now, because like, you know like what he's going to do, so you don't want to get attached to him, but like you do, because he's well written and he's like a role model character to Percy, or kind of like, I think he's like a crush to Percy. I know everyone doesn't agree with that, but I definitely think so. So for someone who like Percy looks up to so much, to like betray him like that, it's so sad. And especially because you get to the end of like the like time limit of the quest, and like they're all fine, like they've done the thing, they've like returned the lightning bolt and everything seems fine. You're like, oh, like it's all gonna be good, because Percy is like, you know, he like did the thing, and maybe like you could just kind of like let go of the bit that the Oracle said about like you'll get betrayed, because you're like, it's fine, like everything worked out in the end, and then like surprise, it didn't. Also, speaking of the prophecy, I think it's really hard to do prophecies right, because it just is. It's like you're basically telling the reader the entire plot of the book, but you have to not tell them the entire plot of the book when you reveal a prophecy. So the fact that it like works in these books, because I think it works in like all of the like Percy Jackson and the Olympian series. I'll get to Piers Olympus later, but I think it works. I think the prophecies really work in these books, which is why I feel like, yeah, like it just works. So I think that was done really well as well. I also, spoilers for like future books, but like, it's so cute to see like young Percy and Annabeth knowing how they end up. I mean, I called it when I was 12, so I don't know how big of a spoiler this is to be like, yes, like these two people who are very obviously gonna get together, but like maybe if you like don't really read that much into relationships in books or like stuff like that, or if you're like a younger reader, then like you don't know exactly that it's going to go there. But like, yeah, I started shipping these two like when like in the truck scene, which I definitely do want to make a whole video about, where I just talk about that one scene, which is probably just gonna be me reading the scene out and then crying. But like, I think it's so good, and I love it, and I like it. It's just like so cute, and like they're friends. They're friends, and they're like protecting each other, and like, you know, if they haven't known each other for like super long, when they're risking their lives for each other, like that's, and they're 12. Like if you think like Grover is older, Grover's like 28 or something, he's fine, but like Percy and Annabeth are 12 years old, and they're like, I'm going to risk my life for you, and I'm like, I'm crying. You're so cute. Like, they're so cute, and they just like care about each other so much, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't handle it. So there's that. Grover, I do think he does not act at all like a 28-year-old, but that's more of just like, it's a kid's book and he's the best friend character. You kids don't really want him to act like a 28-year-old, because if he were acting like a 28-year-old, he would be like, you are a child, why are you doing this? Which is what I would say as a 21-year-old. Like if like a 12-year-old was like telling me that like they have weapons and they're gonna go on a quest like related to Greek gods, I'd be like, no, like stay home, I'll do it for you, I don't care. Like, I don't care how much it has to be. You are a child and I cannot like let you do this in good conscience. Like, I can't even like accompany you on this event. But like, that's just kind of something that is I think the theme with like the entire book, is that this would never happen if any of the adults in the book were like actual adults. I can't think of a single person over the age of like 13 or 14 who would think it was okay to like let 12-year-olds fight people. And that's only because if you're 13 or 14, you maybe don't realize how young a 12-year-old is. I don't think anyone like under like 17 should be doing all of these weird adventure things in these books. But like, that's just something you have to put aside when you're reading these books and be like, that's just how it is. That's just how it is. Like, it's fine. Also, the chapter titles are like spoilers, and it's hilarious. Like, it's actually still funny, and I love it. Like, it's still funny. It's, after all this time, it's still funny. I remember liking Poseidon as a child. I don't remember if that came from this book specifically, or if it came from like something he did in a different book. But like, he's kind of an asshole. So yeah, that's what I think about Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. And I'm gonna do the other books in the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series and Heroes of Olympus, and I'm gonna try to get to the other series as well, like King Chronicles and Magnus Chase and Trials of Apollo. So yeah, stay tuned for that. I'm gonna make a playlist out of this because I have seen the playlist feature on my like creator studio thing, and I wanted to make a playlist, but I didn't really have anything to put in a playlist, but now I do. So that's that. I need to sleep now. Okay, bye.